and give us also a few statistics. I see every second person's coming, so we'll wait a little bit. So you just start the introductory part.
Yes, okay. So as we welcome everyone, I see many countries in the chat, and this is very pleasing to us to welcome all these people from all these countries with us. So I can start with an overview of this Asterousia Hybrid University. Many of you have already followed it. But for those of you that are new, we can explain a little bit how the e-course is set up and what we will be doing in the next few weeks. So I will share a short presentation. Let me see. I don't know if you can see the full view.
Not yet.
Not yet. You need to now. It's okay now.
Okay. I saw Irini earlier. So every year we have a different background in our Asterousia University, which are always photographs from the Asterousia Biosphere Reserve. So her photo is our symbol for this year. So this year, it's the 5th year that we are doing an hybrid format, but based on also on the phase A that took place in Asterousia. And this year we are focusing on integrating natural and cultural heritage in the UNESCO sites. So after I give you an overview of the e-course, what has been happening so far. We will introduce our week experts. You know Samuel Partney from UNESCO Venice, Professor Skoulos, who is our scientific coordinator for the entire course, and maybe we have online Mr. Anno Vrenzu from Asterousia, or she will can join later. So the main reason why we have this meeting every Friday, we have it on the same time, is to discuss further questions, topics that you have raised while watching the the self-paced part of the e-course. And we have a lot of questions to address today. You're welcome to leave your camera on, your microphone off, unless you want to take the floor. And you can also interact with us through the chat box. We invite you also to remove any distractions like phone, social media, and so on, so that we can have a productive discussion. So how is the e-course structured? So far, you have come across its asynchronous part that is self-paced. So participants, you each have a login and you can log in and study the course material at your own pace. We have videos that are available online and videos that are recorded from the lecturers for the purpose of this specific e-course. And then there are also texts, links to resources. You can browse at your own pace. We have some interaction elements like the Padlets, the Slidos, the Triciders that we have here and there. And this part of the course allows us to co-shape or co-design the content. And every week we collect the questions to discuss in Friday in our live meetings. For those of you that can't make it in a certain Friday, the recording is then uploaded in the e-course. So the entire course is three weeks long. In the first week, we deal with the overall framework, the white picture. We talk about the SDGs, the Man and the Biosphere Program, BRs, but also other types of UNESCO designations. And we talk about nomination and also integrated forms of management. In the second week, this year, we will focus on links um, between natural and cultural heritage, and we will do that through selected talks, lectures, but also case studies. This year, we tried something new. We invite all learners, if they want, to share with us a case study from their region that highlights this link, the merging of natural and cultural heritage, and how you apply it in your sites. And we are thankful that some of you have replied and are already preparing their cases. So we will look into them in the second week. In the third week, our focus is then on education, awareness, community participation, and effective communication tools, we could say. So this year, we're very happy that we have had more than 200 applications from 57 countries. There is a strong Mediterranean representation. For the first time, the Italian team outscores the Greeks. So Italy comes first in participation, but we have also from many Mediterranean countries. We have some people here from France, from Italy, from Albania, so in the chat and so on. About 70 have already, more than 70 have already logged in to follow the content. Every week we open the new units, while the previous units remain open, so you can still browse on the contents of the previous week. And we have 35 questions to reply to. And here is the participation per countries. Here are the most popular countries. Portugal also, we have a lot of Portuguese this year. As usual, we have more women than men, around 60 to 40. It's the balance. And we have a mix of BR managers, conservationists, but also this year, due to our focus, archaeologists and heritage managers, which is something new and very interesting to us. We have also educators and university students. So we have participants from their early career paths to really veterans manager veterans. And many of you work directly with on UNESCO sites. In the first Padlet of the course, we asked you about the expectations. What do you expect? So what most people ask for is best practices and practical tools, therefore actionable methodologies that they can apply in their sites immediately. They would like to get a deeper insight into how to connect the natural and the cultural elements in the sites where they work, and if there are good examples and integration approaches that they can learn from. Many people look for networking possibilities. They want also to know more about effective community engagement methods and real-world examples. We also asked you about a personal definition of sustainability. This is something that we ask every year, and it is interesting because it shows the dynamic where people stand. So the majority of you described sustainability connected to the future generations. Also, they emphasized the responsible resource use. Many of you touched upon the concepts of balance and equilibrium between humans and the natural systems. Many of you touched upon the long-term thinking that we need to have in mind to apply sustainability. You talked about interconnectedness of systems, species, relationships of humans with nature. Some of you talked about issues of social justice and equity, the three pillars of sustainability, of course, natural and cultural heritage, which is our topic, and community participation. So already many of you have, as we said, logged in and discovered the units of the first week. And maybe you can note in the chat now to what extent you have progressed in the e-course. So you can note from 0 to 3. If you haven't logged in yet, you just dial in 0. And if you have already completed all videos and readings of the first week, you can note 3. So this is a small poll to see what we have here. Remember, when you watch every unit, to click on complete and continue at the bottom of each screen. This is essential for the third week when we reach the stage of the certification. Otherwise, your certificate will not be enabled. As we said, the videos of week 1 will remain open. And if your question is not general, but it is addressed to a specific lecturer or speaker, please remember to integrate his name in your question. So the more active you will be, the richer the content and the experience will be for all of us. I close with our sponsors, organizers and sponsors for phase A that took part in Asterousia, and also for phase B. So I think I can stop sharing and give the floor to Professor Skoulos.
Thank you very much, Iro, and for the statistics, but also in elaborating and bringing to us the main reactions and responses of our students, our colleagues, and all those who participate. It's very useful, and we may go back to some of the general points you presented. I would like to start by thanking all of you for your interest, and thanking also very much UNESCO Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe, based in Venice, and particularly Dr. Samuel Partey, who is with us and who is heading the scientific part, particularly as it concerns the biosphere reserves, and the natural part of our work, which is a predominant part of the biosphere reserves. This year we had also the chance, and we'll discuss in the next session, in the next week, also with a contribution of the cultural part of the UNESCO office, UNESCO Bureau. Also, I would like to thank all other contributors, and you had the opportunity to see through lectures and other things, and you can understand that there is a synergy of many people, many experts, a lot of experience, also some wisdom behind. And we would like to share to the best of our ability, knowledge, definitely commitment to pass this experience to you, and share also your ideas which to a great extent is expressed through the questions. I have to say that I was very pleased with the richness of the questions, and I would like to ask first Samuel if he wants to say something and if he wants to deal with some of the questions in advance, and then I come in. Of course, it is an open and dynamic interactive session this. So at a given moment, you may also ask for the floor and raise a question. But first, allow us to get through the written questions, and at any moment, of course, we may get some additional ones. So, Sam, the floor is yours, and you may also pick some of the questions you would like to answer.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. And greetings to everyone who is connected here. This is really an excellent platform for us to all learn about, the UNESCO sites and also how it relates to cultural heritage and all that UNESCO, prioritizes as a means of, supporting member states, realize the SDG goals. I think this course is very important, and we have been, collaborating with Prof and the team for, I think, about 10 years, handling different,
Even more
than that.
I
Yeah.
should say,
Yeah.
because it is the sixth hybrid, but
Yeah.
this is the 11th
11th. Yes.
university
Yes.
we had.
So this has been really a very fantastic program, and we've had some of the people who have participated in this, holding relevant positions and also coming back to us and sharing the stories of how they've been able to translate some of the knowledge that they have gotten through this program. Yeah, I had a look at the questions. I think a lot of them are very relevant to us at UNESCO, and they also raise some of the issues that we are trying to also address within the biosphere reserves. Especially I see questions related to the institutional credibility of biosphere reserves and how it can be improved. I think over the years we've been trying to look at how we can communicate, the result that is coming from the biosphere reserves. If you listen to one of the videos where we shared the historical overview of the biosphere reserves, dating back in the 1970s, where there was a lot of discussions around how human development can be harmonized with environmental conservation, because we know that as population increases, of course, there's also going to be increase in urbanization, agriculture and all that. And if not done in a sustainable way, this can impact negatively on the environment. So the whole concept of having an area that is protected and that is able to demonstrate how sustainability can be mainstream into community societal development is what really underpins, some of these designated sites like the biosphere reserves. And we have had a look at, some of the policies and strategies on environment in a number of countries, and we've seen that in very few cases you find like biosphere reserves, geoparks explicitly mentioned, in these policy documents. But in most cases, we don't find them. The reason being that even though we can relate having a biosphere reserve to, biodiversity conservation as a country's, commitment to, frameworks like the Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Framework, to the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, to the Sendai Framework on disaster risk reduction, we don't see, countries mentioning that one of their key strategies to meeting these commitments is by having more biosphere reserves and geoparks. And so I think part of it is not because these sites are not delivering, but because they are not communicated. Because I think at the science policy interface, communication is very, very important. And so I think in terms of credibility, yes, they are credible. I mean, the science has shown the evidence that if you have more biosphere reserves, the possibility of you meeting global commitments on biodiversity, of course, is going to be very high. But I think this has to be communicated. There should be a clear demonstration of, the tangible outcomes on, conservation, on livelihoods, on education, climate action, and all that. I also saw where somebody asked about, how we can better communicate the SDG goals, how biosphere reserves are contributing to the SDGs. I think here we at UNESCO also want to see the research community go into the biosphere reserves, conducting research and using the research evidence to also inform decisions. And you can see that these decisions can translate from the local level, where the biosphere reserves are located, to the community and also to the national level. And I think more and more countries are looking at how biosphere reserves are contributing to certain SDG targets. And again, it boils down to intensifying research, communicating research, because the science that it can deliver on these development goals is already there. But we need to have the tangible outcomes. We need to have people, telling the story of how, the biosphere reserves are able to deliver, these results. So I think if I look at a lot of the questions, I think they are very much related to this. And then I also see there's a question on how protected areas better measure and communicate progress on the SDGs without oversimplifying complex environmental and social processes. Again, as I've said, I mean, we've seen in countries where a country comes that they want to have like a biosphere reserve or UNESCO designated site, which be a cultural natural heritage site. And you know that there's eligibility requirements, to get these sites listed and recognized. And they are happy because one, it puts the country on the global map. And I think for some countries, they just want to have more, but they are not really thinking into, what is the rationale behind having more? Is it because we have a certain specific development agenda that we think that this could strategically, contribute to? So they're not looking into that. So they get to a stage where, for instance, they think that maybe within, if you, again, going back to the video, we said that the biosphere reserve, they have like 3 zones. And you have the core zone where conservation activities are intensified. It's more or less like a no-go area. But then they get to know that maybe there's a huge diamond deposit or gold or some mineral within the core zone of the biosphere reserve. And so they come back to the UNESCO and they don't want the place to be protected or listed again as biosphere reserve because there's, of course, a legal framework that, protect these areas. And so the question of whether we should dig the diamond or keep the core zone always becomes an issue of, contention between science and policy and also the economics, into looking at, okay, if we want to solve poverty, how does the biosphere reserve in itself address issues of poverty or income generation, whereas we have huge diamond deposit that can solve a lot of problems in the country. So I think in this kind of issues, we always have to engage very strategically, looking at the opportunity cost of having the biosphere reserve or not having it, and looking into the trade-offs in terms of policy and global commitments and what countries stand to gain in terms of environmental conservation. And of course, how you could still be able to tap some of these resources in a very sustainable way that we don't compromise on the ecological integrity of these zones. So I think more and more we've seen the need for, a lot of these results to be communicated. Otherwise, we can have sites designated and countries come in and say that they don't want to list them again. Maybe, Prof, I can leave here and then maybe ask you to continue and then I'll come back again. I see that the questions are quite many. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much. You try to respond to several of the clusters, let's say, of questions. It is very difficult to reply specifically to each one of the questions, but I will try to take one by one. And if there are things I will say, well, this has been already somehow received a comment or a reaction from our part. What is important for everybody to understand, I try to make a graph here, is that we are talking about many things at the same time, in the sense that biosphere reserves and how well they function depends a lot on the culture, the political culture, and the overall culture in the country, the way administration works, the way citizens participate. So it is not one parameter alone that could define the good, excellent, or not satisfactory functioning of a biosphere reserve. The most important thing is what is the value of biodiversity in the mind of the people, first of all. And this is fundamental. I mean, what is the importance in the mind of people of nature, of natural environment, and as part of the natural environment of biodiversity as a fundamental natural capital compared to other capitals and compared to the immediate needs of the society. So this is a first important thing. And the second one, which defines the biosphere reserves and identifies them and in comparison with other designated areas, is sustainable development. These are not only areas of protection of the biodiversity, but areas where human beings are active, human beings live, human beings use them as sources of recreation, inspiration. So this is very important to remember. And this is a major difference because there are questions from other types of protected areas. So what the first graph I want to show you is that in our society, we have all type of people, from indifferent for biosphere reserves, biodiversity, environment, to extremely interested. So we go from a flat line before introducing the
higher, please.
Yeah, before introducing any information, through awareness and through biosphere reserves and all what we are doing within UNESCO, but also within all other bodies dealing with that through the Convention of Biological Diversity, is to enhance the in this Gaussian. So most people are not totally indifferent or not very, they are here. What we try is to actually elevate this part as much as possible, to elevate it, and actually to take it to the population higher here. So theoretically, we want to take this from here up there for everybody, but it will never happen. So, but what we want is, with time, to have this higher and move toward a bigger part of the population, different percentage of the population. So here is the interest. We want, through what we are doing, to bring more people, to be more people interested, have higher understanding and higher appreciation of biodiversity with time. Now, there are many different parameters. The overall environmental understanding, but also importance in the international agenda, is also very, very significant. We are in a difficult period now. We have many other pressing issues in the political agenda, and unfortunately, the environment, including biodiversity, at the moment are considered as less pressing and less important, despite the fact that we have ahead of us, present and ahead of us, huge changes in climate change and disasters all over the world. So we need to place all what we are discussing on biosphere reserves in this very more general framework, and understand that we, particularly now, even if the percentage of the people, the very active, as I mentioned before here, are not increasing as we wished, it is the overall Gaussian is moving, is higher, despite the fact that we don't have, and these are statistics, despite the fact that we don't have a overall geopolitical favorable scene. What is also important is that we have more and more young generation people getting into the pool of the very interested. We have also young people, unfortunately, to the other extreme. We didn't expect that, but we see that there are people who are actually focusing on more money and careers that bring more immediate benefits for individuals directly, and benefits at that end. So biosphere reserves are one more tool for tangible ways to convince people about the value of the biodiversity, and to show people that this value of biodiversity could be combined with cultural values, and the two of them can be there with development. Not all kind of developments, with sustainable development. So this is the key message of biosphere reserves. And we have many successful stories to share, and this is what some mentioned about communication. However, we have also many problems and challenges in many biosphere reserves because of many reasons. The most important ones are the lack, in most cases, of legal provisions for strict implementation of sustainable policies, which is very difficult to be actually, to not only to have it in a legal way, but mostly to implement it and monitor and control that this is done properly. Good news. Until now, it was not necessary that biosphere reserves are legally recognized in the countries. In the new strategy we approved in Hangzhou a few months ago, there is a mechanism and there is a, not only recommendation, an obligation that within few years, all biosphere reserves be recognized also legally. The reason why these, particularly for biosphere reserves, were not recognized is because they include a series of other protected areas under different schemes. In Europe, we have the Natura 2000, which is legally described and established. And these are usually within the biosphere reserves, the core areas, or in some cases, core and buffer areas. In many other countries, these are IUCN or Ramsar sites or specially protected areas under the Barcelona Convention or other regional seas or whatever. So this is something for everybody to understand, that because the biosphere reserves have protection but also sustainable development, there is this kind of combination which in some cases is not very easy for the authorities to legislate under this mixed, let's say, the three sub areas we have. I think it is technical, it can be done, and this is why we are moving towards this direction. So this answers some of the questions we have, and the monitoring now has two aspects. Yesterday, I was chairing a meeting with the Secretariat of the Biological Diversity, several other organizations, the Barcelona Convention, EU and IUCN, for the 7th national reports, which should be, all countries should submit in February, very soon, in less than, in 1 month, approximately. And the countries have major difficulties because in order to assess properly the status of biodiversity, the progress or decline or all that, there are hundreds of parameters to be measured. And countries have serious difficulty at the moment, despite the efforts we have made, and we made also yesterday through an EU-supported program, the WES-BCA. Countries don't have enough data And even if they have, there are no time series, they are fragmented here and there. We need to improve there. And this goes back to my first observation that at this moment, the resources available for this kind of support within the national budgets or with the with foreign aid is reduced. Still, we have increased contribution by the so-called participatory science, not only citizens, but also knowledge universities and other knowledge centers that have increased their contribution in collecting data. And there is something we have tried to show the direction, is that this data should follow protocols, the same protocols used by the countries, so that the data produced by the society or outside the formal monitoring systems could actually be accepted and integrated in the overall the bulk of data necessary for monitoring. We have done that with the support of the bureau from Venice, the UNESCO, particularly for monitoring of marine litter. I mentioned that because we have used the protocols, the formal protocols of the European Union and of the Barcelona Convention for the Mediterranean, showing the way that other similar activities would benefit the proper monitoring. So this is important for everybody to understand. It's not enough to go and measure something. It is good if we have the ambition to help the monitoring of the sites. We need to follow protocols that the countries and the international conventions can accept. Now, I get into one by one some of the questions. And so the first one by Luciano, the first as I received, because are in chronological order as they arrive, I believe.
They're in popularity, so it got a lot of votes. So it's considered interesting also by the participants.
Okay, fine. So the first one was for Luciano Macaluso. It was, how can the institutional credibility of biosphere reserves be improved, considering that they do not possess legal personality? I think I answered that. We are moving towards this direction. And it is not necessary, the legal only personality, but is very, very helpful. The other thing is, of course, by having, as some said, scientific interpretation, scientists also communicating that, adding credibility to what kind of protection is provided and what the impact of that is, which are two. I'll come back to that later on. The second is, how can, is by Isabel Caldeira, how can biosphere reserves better communicate SDG goals and to their community? Well, for this and many other questions, we need knowledge. We need, first of all, knowledge, so people who can actually understand and communicate. These people are not always from the administration. So it is very important to have other groups, civil society organizations, NGOs, academia, helping in this. Of course, the centers, if there are centers, information centers in the biosphere reserves, could add this as an important one of their objectives. And this requires, and further on, I will mention the capacity building. Capacity building is needed in general, at least at global and regional level and country level. And the first capacity building is training of trainers. So if we have people, paid or not paid, who undertake this kind of roles for explaining biosphere reserves, they have to be well informed about the SDGs and introduce these elements in their presentations. So this is important. So we have two things. The one are training of trainers, and second is, of course, how this knowledge, and not only knowledge, we know that there is a passion behind, is transmitted to our audiences. And there is also the talent of the people who wish to undertake this kind of work.
If I can interrupt you in
Yes.
this, only just to add, especially nowadays, because the environmental sector in general, we look for influencers. We are in the
Sure.
era of influencers. So it's important that the people, the local ambassadors, social media experts that we take on with us are equipped with the right information to transmit.
Thank you very much. And we see that the influencers, actually, the number of influencers increases. We have to be, however, careful. If we bring influencers into this task, that we make sure that they know enough so that what they say is really valid and not only useful, but to the extent possible accurate. So it is very important also to try these kind of things. But it is important, the influencers, and recently we had a big conference in Cairo, and we saw and we came in contact with many of them who are excellent actually in their work, and we have to use to benefit from their charisma. So the other thing asked by Charlotte Bezombe is how can protected areas and authorities better measure and communicate progress on SDGs without oversimplifying complex environmental and social processes. This is a very difficult question, a very straightforward question, but difficult to answer. The simple answer, is that we have indicators for that. There are indicators for to understand, assess all that. And there are two types of indicators that we apply there. They are the operational indicators, the ones showing that we are doing the right, the things in the right way. So that we have the processes in place, that we measure every year or every month or every day or whatever, and that there are provisions in place. So this is the one thing. The other thing are the impact indicators, which are more difficult. And so there are two things. One is, are we doing the right things? And the other is, are we doing the things right? Both are needed. Both indicators are needed to see that we are doing the right things, to the right direction, decreasing, let's say, emissions, increasing number of species or whatever. On the other hand, we should do things in the right way. So these things these indicators exist, but are not always measured or not applied. We are in a here we have a Gaussian that is more to the non-implementation or in detail. We have many good intentions, but not necessarily measuring and showing the results of our interventions. We need to improve that. There is Rodrigo Moro asking what other actions about SDGs be done besides the common ones, like social media to help these ideas reach an older and often offline population. In fact, here, the answer is what I said before. We need local action. We need NGOs, authorities, local knowledge to reach these parts of the population and also to make things interesting for them. Explaining that SDGs are not something for countries at UN level, but these are, so we don't discuss SDGs as such, but we analyze the most appropriate ones for the specific community. And again, as some said before, the issue of poverty, the issue of food security, the issue of gender, several issues might be higher in the local agenda, and they relate to these SDGs more. And there we have actually to introduce the systemic interconnection between areas that they know under SDGs and areas that they neglect. So to bring the balance closer to what actually is, first of all, the need of the society, but also the purpose of the biosphere reserve. So there is where we need knowledge and human resources. The other one is by Julien Innocenti. What kind of actions with inhabitants, stakeholders, municipalities have to do at the beginning of the designation of territory as biosphere reserves? Our experience there are many consultations and awareness raising meetings with different sectors, with the entire society, with also schools. We found that informing school children about the designation of an area is a very effective way for the families. We ask these children to become the ambassadors in their families. We bring them, we explain to them, we make them enthusiastic, and we ask them to influence their families. And it plays, I mean, in most cases, this is successful. You need also to have special sectors of the society, farmers, fishermen, hoteliers, others, to understand the benefits and also make them enthusiasts about the overall project. Little by little, this becomes a critical mass that could influence the entire society. when we are talking about entire society, I explain the Gaussian always. So the next one is Krisi Jan. I see a lot of research in biosphere reserves about climate change and nature conservation, but few on social science topics. You are absolutely right. We started with historically with that. Also historically, the interest of scientists or from natural science was more, than from other areas. Then we have ethnologists and anthropologists and archaeologists. So cultural and human development scientists and then sociologists. So now these are the newcomers into the system. They are there for many decades, but very few of them. And we need to have them there in parallel to the other groups. It is now more interesting for them from the moment that sustainable development has become an objective. So they started seeing if we have any, let's say, new jobs there, people returning, young people getting back in the, in the farms of their fathers. And also about the impact on visitors and other things. But indeed, we don't have enough, and we need to discourage, yes, this.
Prof, just
Yes,
yeah,
please.
just to add that I think that it's a very important question. I mean, I remember when we started this compilation of research coverage and biosphere reserves because we wanted to have a Springer publication that tells the story of how biosphere reserves contribute to biodiversity conservation, but also social transformation and policies and stuff like that. I think majority of the papers we got were from the the natural sciences, because I think if you look at the maybe dating back from history, I think most of the emphasis that we place on biosphere reserves is more, to say, environmental than sociological. And I think it is very important that we start looking into, the social dimension, as I mentioned, how the biosphere reserves are contributing to, poverty reduction, contributing to, education, contributing to food security. I think this is very, very important because as a socio ecological environment, you have so many other components, within the transition zones, but also in the buffer zones where you can have some sustainable practices that really have direct bearing on changing lives, improving local economic development and all that. And I think it's very good that we start bringing in, the anthropologists, the social scientists into the work that we do in the biosphere reserves, because I think over the years it has only been skewed towards the natural, the pure sciences. So this is a very good point, I think, for UNESCO. I think this is strategically, this is very important for us to start looking into it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your intervention. It's very important. What is particularly, of course, important to remember is that it is natural that natural scientists are there, because these are areas where we have, the most thriving biodiversity, and natural scientists definitely have to come there. This is their field, and they will be always there. and we have to encourage them to come. The social scientists observe, social phenomena throughout. We need to encourage them to come, and I had some discussions with some of them, and some of them said to me, you know something, there are so few people there on which we can have research, which is true, but still we have through them also to populate more biosphere reserves, bring back people if possible. This is a very, very important issue, but definitely this is a very important area for the future. The next question is by Miroslava Mikhailova. And the question is, do all Asterousia BR residents and stakeholders know they live in the biosphere reserve and understand their benefit? Is this understanding due to the administration efforts? I do hope, I do hope that they know, but I doubt. There are still people who I ask you to remember the Gaussian I showed before. What is certain is that we have the peak coming up, and a bigger part of the population not only knows that, but also appreciates that. And this has to do a little bit with the local administration, more with the management board of the Biosphere Reserve, and to a large extent to us all. And the Asterousia University plays its role because there is publicity on that, so more people know, but still there are people who are not fully aware as we wish. It is, as I said, it is an ongoing process. It will be always ongoing because people come, go, and so on and so forth.
We have with us someone from Asterousia. I don't know if we have more. I see on the screen Katerina Mandanaki, who is one of the youth of the region.
Is the chair of the youth group. Yes, Katerina, you may intervene here. You may say your views.
Actually, thank you for the opportunity to contribute, but I think it's exactly as the graph you provided, and it's really sad, but we hope that through local actions and youth engagement, we might be able to strengthen knowledge and understanding of what biosphere reserve is. So it's the sad truth for us that not everybody understands what that means.
Thank you, Katerina, and thank you for your role. Actually, there is a next question by Charlotte asking, how do Asterousia Biosphere Reserve concretely involve people? One of the ways is also the youth group Katerina is chairing, but also, as I mentioned, with schools, school children, the different awareness raising campaigns we have, but also visits. Myself has visited the area more than 50 times in different villages with different groups of different jobs, fishermen, for example, or because there are so many difficult problems they have, and they expect, if the biosphere reserve is there, they expect present, they expect advice, they expect solutions from you, or at least guidance. So you have to be there, and still in Asterousia, we face problem of human resources. There are not enough people working for the biosphere reserve. So there are obvious issues common in most of the biosphere reserves all over the world. Now,
may I add only one thing, that
yeah.
we are in the process of drafting a proposal, if we are successful in getting funds, in order to get into all schools of Asterousia. And coming back to what you said earlier about working, the value of working with students as ambassadors, this is another way that we work with the locals.
Yes, and many other things, but we'll discuss that, I'm sure, also in the coming weeks. Another question here I have is from, they are very small, I cannot read the name anyway, Alessandrini.
Luana
Luana,
Alessandrini.
okay. Are there concrete examples of ongoing interaction between biosphere reserves and World Heritage Sites where they conduct joint training and awareness raising activities? Perhaps some may reply on that. I can tell you that at least in the ones I know many ad hoc thank you. Many ad hoc examples, but I don't know about systematic, let's say, top-down guidance on that. But there are indeed in specific biosphere reserves, including in some of the ones we have in Crete, there are joint, let's say, a positive interaction and some promotion of the values, both natural and cultural, of the area by the two parts in the administration. But I don't know, I cannot give you more. I don't know if Sam knows about any at the UNESCO level, any effort to bring together some kind of coordination and guidance for that.
Yeah, I think as you said, I mean, this is more on an ad hoc basis. For instance, last year we organized a training in Germany on, the science policy interfaces of UNESCO sites, and we're able to bring together all the different designations, the heritage or so, but the biosphere reserves and the geoparks. So this is more on an ad hoc basis, but I think there is some attempt to try to bring all these sites together, and that is why at the moment we have the UNESCO Navigator. I don't know whether any of you have had opportunity to look at it, but this is basically UNESCO Sites Navigator. So this
It
is
is part of
basically
the course. We have
it's
included.
part of the course. Excellent.
Yes.
That's great. So which is really bringing together all the different data, from these sites together. So I think in terms of capacity building, this is at the moment is more on an ad hoc basis because this is handled by different sectors. But this year we are also going to have a second phase of that. Is likely to be in Italy, or we'll go back to Germany for that, and we're going to issue a call also for people to express interest and participate in that program. Thanks.
Thank you. So the next question is by Brian, and the question is about SDGs, about what other actions can be taken to accelerate the implementation of SDGs that are either stagnant or regressing. Difficult. The answer is difficult. We need more capacity building and stimulating good practices to show that some of these SDGs can progress. Knowledge. We need the knowledge and again communication tools. But the first of all is knowledge exchange there. And I don't think that this can be taken up only by biosphere reserves. This is, we are good in explaining how SDGs can be linked with the objectives and the progress within or around the biosphere reserves. What you are asking for here, the stagnation, the rest are issues that go beyond, far beyond sometimes from the biosphere reserves. So there are big issues where in some cases we can, if we have the knowledge, we can provide convincing arguments. The next one is by
Sorry,
Charlotte.
Prof.
Yes?
Yeah, I think also a very important element is also finance, because
Absolutely.
I think at the UN level, we're trying to look at, you know, how countries are progressing, and we see that finance is a very big enabler, you know, to achieving the SDGs. And it has to come from different sources, public, but also private, to be able to drive this. And we've seen that especially in least developing countries, this is a very big challenge. But, you know, but there are different models that are working in a number of countries, and we think, especially in the region where we find ourselves in Europe, the Nordic countries and others, I think they've made very tremendous progress because of the enabling policies, but also they've been able to you know, done their budgetary planning in such a way that there's also high investment into certain specific SDGs that countries think they need to achieve them as soon as possible. Thanks.
Yes, you have answered also to the next question, which is by Azenejeb, Azenegash. The question was, within 10 years, we achieved on track only 18%, and we have only 5 years to left. Are there, I mean, new directions being identified to achieve more than these 5 years? Indeed, there are. There are some reviews, several reviews at different levels, also within the EU, in the Mediterranean, different parts of the world. The result is we need acceleration, we need this and that, but also we need the resources, financial resource for that. And as some mentioned, this is the key problem at the moment for the implementation of that. There are also mechanisms for better use of the resources, for higher transparency, and for more efficiency. So these go hand in hand with better governance. So all of these come together, and there is no single international conference, UN or other, where these issues are not repeated, and we have sometimes a vicious circle there. We need to move faster, but resources need to get into the system. At the same time, better systems need to use these resources. So this is a very important issue. So the next one is how can communication highlight sustainability successes while addressing ongoing challenges? This is to a large extent in the hands of communicators, journalists, communication influencers, communication management, but also what is important is to provide the information with a message that is not despair, that is, we can do it. And even what I said before, 1 minute before, saying about resources and mechanisms, resources are available, mechanisms could be improved, and we try to do that. We need more people who ask for that when they vote, but also when they are civil servants or whatever, consumers or whatever, make the right choices. So the result, I believe that to a large extent, the progress is in our hands. The progress is in our hands. And we have a power, and we have to use this power as citizens and as consumers.
I will only add that in week 3 we have a specific unit on effective environmental communication that offers some tools that you can use to support your work in communication.
And here is how we can have joint governance. Just asking, I mean, Julien asking this, how we can have joint governance between in the biosphere reserves, so that natural and cultural world heritage come together, even if the two UNESCO sites are managed by different entities. So we have partly answered to that. In the management scheme of Asterousia, we have the representatives of the Archaeological Service, the Ministry of Culture is there, together with the Ministry of the Environment and the services dealing with. So we try from the beginning to make sure that there are in the governance structures the right services. And of course, it is up to the chair or the bureau of the board to mobilize them in the right way. This is the only, I mean, this is an effective way. And it might not be the only one, but it is a good one. The next question is by Griselde Canucci. How can cultural heritage within biosphere reserves be better integrated into conservation strategies without compromising local identities and traditions? I think just the opposite. I mean, strengthening the cultural identity and tradition of the region is both the scope but also the tool we have for the proper integration, enhancing actually the value of the region. We need to always start by explaining a little bit with experts the impact of the landscape in the widest sense to the evolution of the community, but also the character of the community in the way that the landscape is managed. So this relationship is important background, and we built on that, and we can actually achieve very, very good results from the moment that we have a good understanding about the why, from when, the reasons behind the evolution of the society. And there sometimes sociology comes also to help us. The next,
Prof.
yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Just to also mention that, of course, I think one of the, if you look at the nomination or the designation process of a biosphere reserve, I think the value that it brings in terms of culture is also very important, key element. And so, in a number of these biosphere reserves, we also have, of course, heritage-based management or practices, so that there are certain indigenous knowledge systems that are very evident in some biosphere reserves. Like Prof said, the people who live in these sites, they have certain cultures, certain traditions and food and all that has to be preserved for posterity. And so this is already an integral part of the biosphere reserve management. And so there are some countries that even there are sites that have double designation because of some of these elements, what we call the universal outstanding value of the sites. Thanks.
There is
Well,
also
yes,
a live
go ahead.
question, just to coming from Ruslana, who is now asking something about support. If you can see the chat, just to.
I can't. It is not easy. Could you read it for me?
If I may ask, how can support also be provided in protecting against the destruction of Thracian burial mounds within biosphere reserves, as there are dozens of such cases in our biosphere park, in order to prevent the loss of world cultural and historical heritage? Something specific?
What was the
Thracian
invasion? Thracian
burial mounds. Maybe Ruslana, you can take also the. If you are here.
I don't see. I
Should
don't
I
understand
ask something?
Yes, hello, go ahead.
Hello. So, in our biosphere reserve, we have like a lot of Thracian mounds,
Yes.
Thracian tales also, and they are regularly destroyed by people, and which are actually stealing everything which is in there. And
Okay.
this is a huge loss for because this is a world cultural and historical heritage, and the law here is not very protective, and we, the people who live in those area, are trying to protect those treasures, because this is something which belongs to the whole Balkan region in this case, and it's very important to be protected. This is my question.
Yes. Well, the answer, you gave the answer. There are three levels of protection. The one is the legal protection. More important even is the patrolling and the way in which you protect these goods with the presence of authorities. But the even more important here, you gave us a very optimistic actually message. In many cases, particularly for archaeological findings, many times the local people benefit from that instead of protecting them. You say that in this case, the local people try to protect. So this is a much, much better case because at least there is the understanding, and you may ask locally from the authorities to take the responsibility in a more serious way. If there is a need for support from us, from the rest, under UNESCO, under citizens organization, under networks, we are quite willing to consider that and discuss with you if there is something we can morally support this kind of thing. Now, we come to some other, how much time we have, Iro?
We are 3 minutes far from the official 1.5 hour duration. So you judge how longer
Well, I'm in page 2 of 5 pages. So, in fact, the only thing I may keep many of these questions for the other meetings. This doesn't mean that you should stop sending questions. I want to answer one question by Isabel about the current with the instability in the Mediterranean, particular countries. Is the Mediterranean Pact compromised? The answer is that it is delayed. Yes, it is in a way compromised in the sense that it is delayed, and we don't have yet. Also, another question was there about how the southern Mediterranean countries can influence this pact. We are at the very beginning. This is the only thing I can say. But we need to build on that. Also the civil society organizations and others study that. And we have prepared many recommendations before, and now we need to go back and see how many of these recommendations are integrated, in what way, and re-approach the Commission for activating it more. In this discussion, we take into account a lot of the views from the southern Mediterranean countries. There are from Maria Catana, in areas where 2 classifications of biosphere reserves, the classification of biosphere reserves and UNESCO global geoparks overlap, how should better coordinate between the 2 classifications? Well, thank you for that. You have to remember also, some may come in, but from my experience, the bigger contains the smaller. So the biosphere reserve includes geoparks. This means that in both cases, if there are legal obligations, if they contain or Natura sites or areas where there are already very strict provisions, these are the same. I mean, you have to follow them. If we are talking about activities about promoting something or publishing something or something else, this does not, I mean, this does not prohibit, let's say, the 2 bodies to act in parallel. But the normal thing is that the geopark participates in a way in the governance scheme of the bigger body. So if there is goodwill, there is no problem. This is the answer I have. A very practical one. It's not institutionalized. I don't know if Sam wants to make any comment here.
No, I think you've just said it right. It's all about, how the institutional arrangements around these sites work together. As I said, I mean, there are a lot of examples about, double designation of sites as geoparks, as biosphere reserves, or either as even natural heritage sites. And I think the different bodies that oversee these sites, they have a common platform, where they share ideas on how the sites can be managed, but also how they can work together to be able to, demonstrate how these sites benefit communities, especially when it comes to issues like, tourism, or where there are certain threats, that, impacts on these sites. So I think it's more of a management issue and creating a common platform for dialogue. Thanks.
There are two questions by Dura on the pact. I have answered the one. The other is if we can, how we can make sure that there are green projects benefit, not foreign investments or whatever. There are two ways. The one are all these projects require consultation, but also there are environmental impact assessments and other provisions for the acceptance of these projects. And of course, awareness is always helpful to be used in the society that interacts with these projects. There are communication again and again, so we can discuss that in the third week, but the capacity building is very important. As I said, training of trainers and local actors. Laura asking about the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And I mentioned about the evaluation, partly is also due now with the seventh national reports. The discussions yesterday show that it is at the moment, I think we are, this was a very, very useful alarm, and we expect to have much better results in 29 through the 8th national report, despite the fact that already more than 50, 60 countries have prepared, not formally submitted yet, but have prepared these reports in detail. So assessments are important, and we are entering an era of appreciation of this, but again, these are linked with financial resources, and the discussion is ongoing.
Professor, sorry, I see people leaving the meeting.
I have to stop then. I apologize. I took one by one. There are many, a few more questions, and one in particular is about the last one, is how can institutions, businesses maintain an ethical code and trust amidst changing international contexts like genocides and wars? This is a very anonymously submitted question, very important one. The answer is ethical codes are indeed very deeply rooted to us in our hearts and in our attitudes. You know that. I mean, even with big crimes, we are talking about a tiny little percentage of the community that is involved in that. Very, very tiny. So ethics still govern our lives. And we have to show confidence, support to that. And this may also reduce conflicts, armed conflicts, and other conflicts. I think what we are doing is towards this direction with faith to the environment, the natural resources linked to the human resources, particularly in the biosphere reserves. We try to create small nuclei of sustainability, enough to convince bigger parts of the society about the right direction. Many of us see and serving despite some of the difficulties, many difficulties we see. Don't forget that there is no linear way to progress. The progress is not going up like that. Progress ups and downs, but always it is what we say, the river goes to one direction. And we may see obstacles here and there. Sometimes these obstacles create big lakes, but this is important. Confidence and thank you very much for being in this training. I'm sure that I left too many things out, but we'll
We don't want
complement that.
to exhaust you.
No, not me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sam. We work hand in hand very
Thank
well.
you. Thank you too. Yeah.
And we hope that we'll pass some of our faith and passion to all of you. We need you.
Great.
You
Thank
continue.
you. Thank you.
So next week we focus on natural and cultural heritage merging, and we keep a live discussion hopefully next Friday in our Friday meeting. So until then,
Good.
Study better.
Nice weekend. Nice weekend.
More.
Nice weekend. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much, Professor Skoulos and everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.